Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Thank you. And we are starting now a different subject, but one that is has a lot of halachot attached to it. And the moment we'll do it, I think you can probably connect all the dots yourselves anyway. And we're now talking about damages in that sense. So here we are, makeh ish vamet, one who strikes a man that he dies, mut yumat, he shall surely be put to death. That I believe is one of the Noahide laws, incidentally. Okay, so that's the way it's stated. One who strikes a man so that he dies. In other words, deals him a mortal blow, right? He shall surely be put to death. And we really go to town in terms of parsing this out. And I promise you, we are only scratching the surface. But, within Jewish literature, rabbinic literature, there's tremendous amounts of material that is spent in analyzing these particular sentences and deriving all kinds of implications regarding the law. And you're going to get a taste of it. You're going to get a little taste of it. Here's the Rashi. Makeh ish vamet, one who strikes a man a mortal blow. Kama, he says, so Rashi himself says, Kama ketuvim ne'emuru beparshat rotzchim. He says, many paragraphs, right? Many things are written about this chapter regarding murderers. Umashe biyadi lefaresh, okay? And what I am capable, what I'm able to explain, lema ba'u kulam, for what purpose they all came, why they're all written. In other words, there are many sentences in the Torah about this. Faresh, he's going to explain. So he's going to give us a little bit of taste of, you might say, rabbinic analysis. So here he goes. Makeh ish vamet, one who deals a man a mortal blow. And this is taken from Tractate Sanhedrin, page 84. Lama ne'emar, why is this statement here? Lefish ne'emar, he says, it comes to clarify another statement, because it's stated in Leviticus chapter 24, ve'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam, a man who strikes the soul of any man, mot yumat, shall be put to death. Shomea ani, if we just had that verse, if we just had this verse in Leviticus, Shomea ani, I would understand by this, I would infer, haka'a belo mita. That means simply somebody who strikes someone else, even if it's not a mortal blow. That verse in Leviticus is not clear, and I might infer from that verse that the very act of striking another person, whether it's mortal or it isn't, is a capital offense. Talmud lomar makeh ish vamet. And that's why it says here, in this place, one who strikes a man so that he dies. In other words, this verse clarifies that it has to be a mortal blow. Eino chayav, he is not guilty of a capital offense, ela bahaka'a shomita, unless it happens to be a mortal blow. Ve'im ne'emar makeh ish, and if it just said one who strikes a man, ve'lo ne'emar ve'ish ki yakeh, and if it didn't say that other verse in Leviticus that we just quoted, hayitu yamor, I might infer from that, eino chayav, it's not a capital offense, ad sheyakeh ish, right? Unless he strikes a man. Hika et isha, but if he struck a woman, the etakatan, or a minor, minayin. How do we know that? It's not clear in the verse. Talmud lomar, and for that reason, Scripture says, ki yakeh, kol nefesh adam. It says in that verse, anyone who strikes the soul of any person. Afilu katan, even if it includes a minor, va'afilu isha, and also a woman. This is the way, you might say lawyers argue. They look at the details and the particulars and whether the T's are crossed or the I's dotted, etc. You want to make sure that you are as clear as possible in terms of the implications of any statement onwards. And again, if it just stated makeish, this is the verse we've got in front of us, right? Shomea ani, I would infer from that, afilu katan shehika, that if it had just said one who strikes a man, one who strikes a man, it just says one who strikes a man. Maybe that includes is guilty of a capital offense. We might think that it would include a minor shehika v'harag. That even if listen to this, right? Imagine when we talk about progressive law, right? Even if a minor strikes and kills a person, yehei chayav, that they will be guilty of a capital offense. Talmud lomar, for that reason, we have the statement, the ish kiyakeh. It says, if a man strikes, the lo katan, shehika, and not a minor who struck. So there we only are thinking of a minor. We're not including the possibility that a woman would not be, you see, a minor is not considered having committed a capital offense, but a woman would be considered, right? So here we're not concerned about that. And in fact, there is a Torah Tmima right here where he says, Hish shehikta minayin. How do we know that a woman is included? It says, nakeish. It does say one who strikes a man, mikol makom. In other words, no matter what. So no matter who, whether it's a man or a woman, that statement clarifies that. Okay. Let me keep going here. Okay. So we might think that a minor was included. Talmud Moshava Ishkiake. Here we go. Okay. Shehika. Va'od, and moreover, Kiyake kol nefesh adam, because it says one who strikes the soul of any human being, filu nefilim. So, and if we might think that it includes, in other words, we're talking about premature babies. Okay. So that's the Sefaria defines that as a birth after 8 months. Now it's true that within rabbinic tradition, a pregnancy that took 7 months is considered viable. A pregnancy that's considered 9 months obviously is the usual term. What about 8 months? That's usually considered a pregnancy. Apparently that was their experience, that such a child would not be viable. So they're talking here about a child that is not viable, a baby that's not, a newborn that's not viable, right? B'mashma, we might think that's also a capital offense. Talmud lomar makeish. So that's the reason why the Torah here says makeish, one who strikes a man. She'eino chayav, it is not a capital offense. Ad sheyakeh ben kayama, unless one strikes a viable baby. Hara'ui liot ish, one that is indeed going to grow up to be a man. Interesting, right? What the details that it goes into in terms of human behavior. I can pause a moment in case anybody wants to make a comment. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
What happens if it's an accident?
Sarah's going to deal with that. That very next sentence, Harlan, you're anticipating. So here we talk, okay, so the Torah is going to clarify that. You're right. It requires clarification. So here we go, the very next verse. Va'asher lo tzada, but one in a case where he did not lie in ambush. Va'elohim ina liyado, and God prepared for his hand. In other words, that there was some divine intervention, at least the way we're going to understand it. In other words, it wasn't his will and volition. It wasn't the fact that this person wanted this to happen. It happened, it's accidental, right? It's manslaughter is what we're talking about here, okay? So that's what the Torah is dealing with right now. V'samti lecha makom, I shall place for you a place, right? I shall prepare for you a place, asher yanus shama, where the manslayer can flee, where he can flee. I mean, we're still talking about taking a life, right? And that's something that's significant, right? I mean, really, significant is almost like an understatement, right? Right. V'asher lo sada, and one who did not lie in wait. Lo arav lo. And so Rashi just gives he's going to explain that this word sada is a complicated verb. That particular form of this word is complicated because there are three possibilities. One is that we know that the word sayid means to hunt, and we could understand that in this context, right? It can also mean to lie in wait. It can also mean to go to the side, right? Tzad can also mean a side of something. So, velo nitkavein. In other words, he didn't intend to kill this person. Okay, now Rashi's going to take a look at this word, sada. Lashon arav. Okay, it has the meaning of lying in wait, ambush. V'chein hu omer, and he gives examples from the Bible. So Samuel 1:24. First book of Samuel, chapter 24. V'ata sodeh, and you lie in wait. Et nafshi lakachta, you took my soul. Right, you've taken my soul. Lo yitachen lomar, and now he says, and you can't translate this sada, that the word sada here, lashon hatzad sayid. You can't understand it. He does not feel comfortable about translating this word as one who hunts game. Shetzedat chayot, he says, because hunting animals, the idea of hunting animals, ein nofel, hey vapoel. He says that the letter hey, and that's this letter here. This is the letter hey. Let me see if I can find another example here. See this here, that the letter hey is part of this word sada. And he says this letter hey, find the place. Right. The hey does not drop out. Shela v'shem davar ba, and the noun of it is sayid. Sayid is game. V'zeh shem davar bo zdiya, and he says the noun of this particular verb sada is zdiya. It's a different form of the noun, right? Stia means ambushment, right? Ufu'al shelo sodeh. And the present tense of it is sodeh. And you see that the hey is still part of it. Whereas the present tense of to hunt would be tzad. Vezeh po'al shelo tzad. And when it comes to hunting, the po'al is tzad. So it's quite possible that the root of the word to hunt, okay, is tzadik vav dalid, okay, whereas the root of the word to lie in wait is sada, which is more related to the meaning of the word to be to the side. In other words, that you lie to the side in ambush for the person. Okay. V'omer ani Pitrono ketargumo, and I would hold, he says, Rashi says, that the explanation of this word sada here, ketargumo, is reflected in the Targum. V'delo kamanle, here it is, v'delo kamanle, right up here, right? He didn't hide for him. So there was no intention to kill this person. And he goes on to say, it's interesting, and this is a very long Rashi. It's an unusual Rashi, I would say. So this is a person by the name of Menachem ben Saruk, and I believe that he might have had a biblical dictionary or some kind of dictionary that he created. And he says Menachem placed this in his entry Tzad Tzayid. He disagrees. So Menachem disagrees with Rashi, and here Rashi is going to disagree with Menachem. So we see a debate among scholars, right? The Ein Ani Modelo, and I don't agree with him.
He says it's
Yeah.
He says it's from Machberet Menachem.
Yes, it's going to be in it, right? Machberet, okay, is like a composition.
Notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think it might be a dictionary or maybe notes on the Torah. I didn't check to see. I didn't check Wikipedia on Menachem ben Saruk. But clearly he has it under an entry like this. He says he doesn't agree with him. He says, but if you want to still enter this word underneath a section on the word tzad, where the verb is tzad, right? He says we should put it in a section, all right, in a part that is, here we go, from Isaiah, an example in Isaiah, al tzad tinasu, you shall be carried on the side, by the side. And so you can see this word side can also mean the side. Here we go. Tzida, or I think it's Tzida or Ra, right? I will shoot the arrow to the side. This is in King David, the famous, this is in the Haftarah for Machar Chodesh, in Samuel 1, where David and Jonathan, where it's this beautiful example of this amazing friendship between David and Jonathan. Sorry, I don't know if you see that, but okay. And again in Daniel, where it's Aramaic, right? Umalin letzad ila'a yimalel. And he speaks, right? And words to the side of the Most High he speaks. In other words, I think it means he speaks deprecatingly about the Most High. Afkan. So here too, Asher Lord Sadah. So we're understanding here, he did not Sadah. Lord Sidade. He didn't turn to the side, something like that. In other words, he wasn't looking for an excuse. So understanding, looking for excuses is a way of turning to the side. Nimtzor lo shum tzad mita, to consider that this person was deserved the element of death. In other words, that this person was consider killing him. So in other words, to consider in that sense. For afze yesh lahar haramav, and he says, I'm not happy with that one either. I have concerns about such a translation as well. Mikol makom, nevertheless, lashon orevu, it has the meaning of one who is lying in wait. New section. Vaha Elohim ina liyador. And Rashi gets into a theological issue here, okay? Because in a sense, it's saying that God caused this to happen, all right? And that's a problem, right? Zimein liyador. He prepared this to happen to him, that God prepared this event to happen to this person. And he says, Lashon, and he gives an example in Psalm 91, Lo te'uneh elecha ra'a. No evil shall be prepared for you. Okay, and there's that word ina, right? You see the root there. And likewise in Proverbs 12, lo ye'eneh letzadik kol avon. He says, so in Proverbs it says, for the righteous person, there will not be prepared any iniquity. Another example, Melachim Bet, that's Kings, second book of Kings, chapter 5, mitaneh hu li. Rashi translates this into simpler Hebrew, mizdamen litzo li ilah, that he is preparing himself to find an excuse against me. He's trying to find a reason against me. Elohim ina liyado. So here we go into the theological issue that God prepared for him, set it up for him. V'lama tetzeh zot milfanav. Okay, why should such a thing happen? Why should it could be here that he's referring from before God? Why would God do such a thing? Okay, let's keep going. Hu she'amar David. We can understand this from a statement that David made in Shmuel Aleph Kaf Daled in first book of Samuel, chapter 24. Ka'asher Yomar Mashal HaKadmoni, as the proverb of the ancient one, or that's the best way to translate this. As the proverb of the ancient one states, Me Rishaim Yetze Rasha. From wicked people, evil comes out. Evil is the result of wicked people. So explaining, I realize this isn't there's not a lot of clarity here, so let's keep going. Mashal hakadmoni, okay, and this phrase, Mashal hakadmoni, the proverb of the ancient one, he haTorah, it's referring to the Torah. In other words, he's suggesting that this verse is what is being referred to now in the first book of Samuel. Okay, so the mashal, this the proverb of the ancient one is another way of describing the Torah. It's a synonym for the Torah. Shehi mashal hakadosh baruch hu, because this is the mashal, the example of the Holy One, blessed be He, Shehu Kahat Kadmoni Shalalam, because He is the one that preceded the first in the universe, the one who preceded, or the most ancient of existence. Vehechan Amra Torah, and where in the Torah did the Torah say, Merushaim Yetze Rasha, from the wicked, bad, evil will flow, will go out? This is the statement that we just said. Elohim ina liyado. God prepared for his hand. Bameh hakatuv medaber. What are we talking about? In other words, give me an example of what are we really talking about to apply this particular statement and to understand it better. Bishnei vnei adam. We're talking about two individuals. Echad harag shogeg, one who killed someone by accident. All right, or unintentionally would be a better way to translate it. He didn't intend to kill. An accident, there's a difference between unintentional and accidental. Accidental means that it was a total unexpected happening, okay? That it totally happened without any involvement of this person whatsoever. Whereas unintentional simply means that he could have been in a situation that was a dangerous situation where he realized he was involved in something dangerous. And the example that the Torah gives later on is that if he's chopping wood and the axe head falls off the axe and kills a person, that's it. In other words, that you know that what you're doing is potentially harmful, potentially fatal, okay? And you didn't take enough precautions. Something like that. We'll see. Let's keep going with this example.
In modern Hebrew, the word for accident is te'una, from that same shurish.
Interesting. You're right. Inala yado. Right. Okay. So anyway, but here we are talking about unintentional. That's what the word shogeg means. It was a mistake, right? The echad harag mezid. So one person, one of these two individuals, one of them killed someone unintentionally. V'achad harag mezid. Mezid is the opposite of shogeg, and it means the other one was a murderer. He actually killed intentionally. V'lo hayu edim badavar, and there were no witnesses regarding this intentional killing. Sheya'idu zeh, that should be able to testify. Zeh lo neherag, this one wasn't executed. Vezeh lo gila, and this other one was not sent into exile, because we know that is what happens to a person who kills someone through negligence. Okay. V'hakadosh baruch hu mezamen mizamnan lapundak, and the way he's putting it is the Holy One, blessed be He, invites them to an inn, echad, to a certain inn. Zeh shaharag b'mezid yoshev tachat hasulam. The one who murdered intentionally, who killed intentionally, is sitting underneath the ladder. V'zeh shaharag shogeg ole basulam. The one who killed unintentionally goes up the ladder. V'nofel al zeh shaharag b'mezid, and he falls on top of the one who killed intentionally, v'horgo, and kills him. He drops from the ladder, falls on the person who had killed intentionally, and kills him. The edim me'edim alav, and the people, there are witnesses there because he's at an inn, he's at a hotel, right? And there are witnesses there who testify regarding him, u'mechayvim oto legalut, and so consequently he is now he is required to go into exile. Nimtza zeh shaharag b'shogeg, so you can conclude that the one who killed unintentionally, think it's gula, is sent into exile. V'zeh shaharag b'mezid neherag, and the one who killed intentionally is in fact killed, pays for his capital offense. So that's the idea. That's how Rashi explains how God sets things up in such a way that justice is carried out. V'samtim lacha makom, and I will set for you a place. Af b'midbar, in the desert as well, in the wilderness. She'anus shama, that a person should be able to flee there. Ve'eze makom kolto, and what place is going to absorb such a person? Ze machane leviyah. We're referring here to the Levitical encampment. So in the book of Numbers, the Israelite camp is divided into several distinct sections, and right around the tabernacle is the encampment of the Levites. So each tribe had its own particular area of encampment around the tabernacle, and he's talking here now about the encampment of the Levites. And we will stop here, and we have a few, one second. Okay, I'm going to mark the place so we know where to start. Now, tomorrow, of course, is Wednesday. I will not be meeting tomorrow. I have my grandparent duties, but please God, we'll be able to meet again on Thursday. So let me stop.
I can see about premeditated murder, but I can't see when two people are fighting and one kills the other by accident. I mean, it's hard for me to understand this particular thing about murder. It's just, it's really hard because one person would, even though they're fighting, he didn't mean to kill him. He wanted just to injure him. In other words, there's a lot of things about self-defense. You got to defend yourself if somebody's going to kill you. So there's another factor on that too.
Okay, so we haven't covered every single thing that Jewish law has to say about cases of murder, okay? So certainly those are all issues that have to be raised and figured out. But one thing that comes out of this discussion today is that intent to kill is very, very important. And intention in general in Jewish law is very, very important. It's important regards the laws of Shabbat, right? In other words, there is that element as human beings where we are given to that extent free will, and how we control our feelings and our emotions and things like that, are all factors that have to go into the judgment.
So I'm wondering if the man who kills unintentionally, is his fleeing to protect himself from the people who love the man and might want revenge, the man who was killed, as opposed to punishment, just for, lighter punishment, but for having taken a life that affects lots of people?
Right. So my answer to you in one word is yes. In other words, it's both. It is absolutely both. This is discussed in the Talmud, right? That on the one hand, to get away for his negligence is not right. Negligence is something that's wrong. We don't have an excuse for negligence.
And when you take a life, it affects a huge amount of people.
Exactly, it does. But the Torah itself says, because they have someone that's called the pursuer, right? The one who's sort of the next of kin, and the idea that person is responsible, and that it is such that if this person leaves the city of refuge, right? Well, that's what we talk about, and goes out of the city of refuge, and the next of kin of the person murdered kills him, that next of kin is not considered guilty of a capital offense. All right, so there's that sort of gray area here that has to be dealt with. That's very complicated. Now, he isn't exiled necessarily forever. He might be exiled there for the rest of his life. It may happen, but the Torah itself mandates that he's exiled there until the death of the high priest. In other words, when the high priest passes away, he can be released, because I think it's understood, this is the way I would interpret it, is that the passing of the high priest is considered to be an act of atonement, that in itself, it's an atoning act on a very, very large level. I'm going to stop here, stop the recording here. This is fascinating stuff that we're dealing with, and we'll be able to say Kaddish Torah.